Hello students and namaste. Our today's topic is your standard 9 social science chapter number 6 world after 1945 part 2. In the first part we had discussed about the introduction of the chapter. We had also seen that how the two world wars took place, what were the consequences of it, and with reference to that we had also seen that in 1945 the second world war got over, and after it got over, right, the world was divided into two parts according to the superpowers. That means the nations, right, two superpowers emerged after the completion of the second world war. One was United States of America, that is USA, and the second one was Soviet Union, that is Russia. But both these countries, they had a different ideology. One followed democracy and one was a communist communalism or a communist nation, right? So they had a different ideology, and because of that their thinking were different. They wanted to prove that they were the supreme power in the whole world, and in that race they came very close to each other, nearly to fight a war which was known as Cold War situation, right? So we had discussed all these things in the first part of our chapter. Now in today's part we'll continue the remaining part of chapter, that is from page number 41. Okay, so let us begin with the explanation. Page number 41, first paragraph, rise of independent nations in India, right? India achieved independence in 1947 after long freedom struggle. Owing to Britain's policy of divide and rule and certain other reasons, the country was divided into two nations. Again, we all know the whole history. Because of the Britishers' divide and rule policy, India got divided or bifurcated into two parts. One was Pakistan and another was India. In the same way, with continued struggle against Britishers, countries like Sri Lanka and Myanmar got independence in 1948. In the case of Indonesia, the United Nations played an important role. In 1949, Asian countries like Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam too got independence, right? So these were some of the nations who were under the British rule. So slowly and gradually they all got hold of. That means the clutches of the Britishers got loosened, and these countries, they were given freedom. Okay, next paragraph, rise of independent nations in Africa. The Second World War proved to be a good omen. Omen can be positive or negative. Omen means a sign, good sign and a bad sign, right? Many times you all might have heard that if a black cat crosses the road, we consider it as a negative or a bad omen, right? So it is a sign. So the Second World War proved to be good omen. That means it had a positive impact. In which way? So good omen for the enslaved nations of Africa, Asia. Okay, sorry, it is only Africa. So what is written over here, that because of the Second World War, we again all of us know that the countries, that is the European countries who had established their control, or they had established colonies in different part of the world, right? Their hold over those colonies or the countries became less. That means the power was lessened, and those countries, they were able to free themselves from the clutches of the European nations. Okay, so again I'll read that same point. The Second World War proved to be a good omen for the enslaved nations of Africa. After the Second World War, countries like Abyssinia, that is Ethiopia, South Africa and Egypt were independent. The Second World War and the freedom struggle in Asian countries inspired the other African countries too. That means after the Second World War, as I said earlier in this paragraph only, even the Asian countries, they got their freedom, right, from the clutches of the European nations or the countries by fighting against them. In the same way, the African countries, when they saw all this thing around the world, even they got inspired and they also fought for their freedom. It resulted in that during the tenure of 16 years from 1951 to 1966, 40 small and large countries became free. 40 small and large countries, they became free. Free means they were in the clutches or they were under the control of some or the other country, but later on they were free. Imperialistic countries tried to have supremacy over these countries, but these countries either joined the superpowers or the military resources and got their freedom. So what is written? Imperialistic countries, countries who were using their power and who had taken control over the other countries, right? So those countries who had taken control over other countries are known as imperialistic countries, right? Like the Britain, because again Britishers or the Britain, they had taken control over many countries, so those or that country is known as imperialistic country. In the same way many other countries were also there, like France, Spain, right? So imperialistic countries tried to have supremacy over these countries, but these countries either joined the superpowers, that is America or Russia, or the military resources and got their freedom. That means they took support or help from the others and they tried to get free from the clutches of the European nations. Next is non-allied movement. Okay, so allied means, alignment means agreeing to something. Non-allied means not agreeing to the other person or people who are saying. So some new nations adopted the policy of not to align with any of the two power blocks and military blocks, right? Because it was after decades or centuries that these countries, the 40 countries which we are talking about, that is after the decades or centuries that they had become free, and now again taking the support or help of the power blocks or the military groups again would make them enslaved. That means if they will take their help or support, or if they will align with them, if they'll come in agreement or treaty with them, then what will happen? Then again they need to follow the instructions or orders what the powerful nations are giving to them. So they did not want that thing and they did not join any of them. That is what is written over here. Again I read, some new nations adopted the policy of not to align with any of the two power blocks and military blocks. They decided that they would maintain equal distance with both blocks, right? Equal distance, that means they will neither join the power blocks, that is America or Russia, neither they will join the military blocks like the Japan and other countries. Okay, these nations were identified as non-allied nations and their foreign policy was called non-allied policy. That means the policy which they adopted, that not to join either of the countries or the organizations, is known as non-allied policy. This means that they decided that they will remain neutral, not favoring anyone. Okay, so those neutral nations that did not want to adopt the ideology of either of the two superpowers of the world wished to have an all-round development, maintaining its unique existence. That means, as I explained you, that they did not want to join any of the power blocks again and come under their control. They wanted to develop their nations, they wanted development in their own country in their own way. So they did not join anyone, right? Under the leadership of India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, Indonesia's first President Sukarno, Egypt's second President Gamal Abdel Nasser, Ghana's first President Kwame Nkrumah, and Yugoslavia's President Joseph Broz Tito got a thumping support for the movement. That means India was leading these nations, other nations in the non-allied movement, and the leaders of other countries who were in the similar situation to India, who had just recently got their independence, right? They all supported India in the non-allied movement and non-allied policy. In this non-allied Alignment Council, 23 countries of Asia and 6 countries of Africa were present. Okay, so there were 2 superpower blocks. Again, there was military group or organization, and the third one, which was newly formed, was non-allied policy or non-allied movement, in which the countries, they decided to remain neutral. They will not support any of the power blocks. So that is what is written over here. The organization was founded in Belgrade. Belgrade is capital of Syria, right? In 1961, known as NAM. NAM means Non-Allied Movement. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, the policies of non-alignment were framed. NAM completely valuable leadership, completed valuable leadership. Right? Nehru believed that movement continues to see a role for itself, and as in its view, the world's poorest nations remain exploited and marginalized, no longer by opposing superpowers, but rather in a unipolar world, and it is Western hegemony and neo-colonialism that the movement has really realigned itself again. Again, it is a bit of difficult paragraph. So the difficult words meanings I'll give it to you, and we'll try to understand the whole paragraph again, right? So let us read it again. Nehru, that is Jawaharlal Nehru, believed that movement continues to see a role for itself. That means the movement keeps on, the protest or the movement, it keeps on going on and on for the years, and it also, along with the passage of time, it keeps on doing its own work. And in its view, the world's poorest nations remain exploited and marginalized. Marginalized means what, right? To put or keep someone in a powerless or unimportant position within a society, right? So what they are trying to say, that if they had joined either of the power blocks, again they would have been exploited or marginalized, right? Again, I'll give you the meaning of marginalized. Marginalized means to put or keep someone in a powerless or unimportant position within a society. That means their powers would again be taken away, which they didn't want, right? So what is written? The world's poorest nations remain exploited and marginalized, no longer by opposing superpowers. That means now they will not remain marginalized or exploited. That means no kind of exploitation will take place, and they will not be marginalized if they oppose the superpowers. That means if they are not joining the superpowers, then their exploitation will not take place. But rather, in a unipolar world, uni means one, right? Unipolar world, and it is Western hegemony. Hegemony means influence or control over another country or group of people. Hegemony means influence or control over another country or group of people. So what is written? And it is Western hegemony and neo-colonialism. So neo-colonialism, that the movement has really realigned itself again. That means now they have decided unipolar world. That means they will have their own world, they will have their own group where they will not join anyone, and they will live in a world where they are not under the control of anyone. They will be having the freedom to make their own decisions, and again they will have their own decisions to progress in whatever way they want. That means the people of the country, the citizens of the country, particular country, they will take the decisions of their own country. No other country will interfere in that. So that is what is written over here. Okay, neo-colonialism means what? So the economic and political policies by which a great power indirectly maintains or extends its influence over other areas or people. Okay, and unilateral, as I already told, uni means one, right? So involving only one group or a country. So neo-colonialism means, again, as I said, that if these poor countries who have recently got their freedom or independence, if they are under the control of a powerful nation, then they will be again exploited and they won't be able to take any kind of decisions of their own for their own nation. Okay, so what is written? And it is Western hegemony and neo-colonialism that the movement has really realigned itself again. That means they didn't want to get exploited again, and they didn't want to come under the control of anyone, and that is the reason they have decided to remain non-allied. That means they will not favor anyone and they will remain neutral. Next paragraph. Moving ahead, what is written? Let us find out. It opposes foreign occupation, interference in internal affairs, and aggressive unilateral measures. Unilateral, I have already told, involving only one group or a nation or a country. So aggressive unilateral measures, but it has also shifted to focus on the socio-economic challenges facing member states, especially the inequalities manifested. Manifested means clearly seen, right? So what is written is, especially the inequalities manifested by globalization and the implications of neoliberal policies. That means, again, those member nations of non-allied movement, they will try to help each other wherever possible, and they will try to remove the difference in the society, right? Socio-economic conditions will be considered and they will try to work on that. The non-allied movement has identified economic underdevelopment, poverty, and social injustice as growing threats to peace and security, because these all nations were exploited, they were not treated or maltreated, they were not treated in a proper way. So these countries are such where there is underdevelopment, poverty, and even social injustice, right? So these countries, that is the non-allied nations, they had a challenge or a problem in front of them which they had to solve. Today, more and more countries have joined the non-allied movement. Union Summit was held at Kuala Lumpur on 13th May 2003. For the last 4 decades, many incidents have happened with the disintegration of Soviet Union. Disintegration means to break down, right? Integration means to come together or united. Disintegration means to break down. So with the disintegration of Soviet Union and Russia's power decreased, that means the Soviet Union, as I told you that Russia had taken control over many countries, so all together were known as Soviet Union. So this Soviet Union later on got disintegrated. That means the countries, they were separated, and slowly and gradually Russia became weak. That means its power became, powers were reduced or decreased. America emerged as a superpower. So Russia's power decreased, that means who was left behind was America, and America became a superpower. Imperial policy, right? Again we know imperial policy means it is a policy wherein the other countries try to expand their territory or empire, means imperial policy. So imperial policy decreased to minimum in other countries. In these situations, non-allied movement played a dominant role, right? That means it tried to make efforts that no country is under the control of other powerful nation. Okay, moving further, the non-allied nations with their non-allied policy were successful in contributing towards world politics. The non-allied movement was successful in showing off its moral impact for maintaining world peace, stopping wars, maintaining human society and nationalism, as well as the superpowers adopting an attitude of disarmament. Again, this is very important point, that just because of non-allied nations, even the superpowers, they were forced to work in the direction of disarmament. Again, we all know what is the meaning of disarmament: to reduce the production of nuclear weapons, and also along with that whatever the weapons are there, they need to be discarded. So that is disarmament. Okay, next, moving further, the next paragraph, again very important one, partition and unification of Germany. Germany was the main cause behind both the world wars. It faced a humiliating defeat in World War II. All its state administration and economy collapsed completely, right? Its administration means the management and economy, that means financially also they were totally broken down, right? It collapsed completely. There was not a single large party left in whole of Germany that could rule the nation, right? So there was no party left, a large party who could rule the nation. In addition to that, there was fear that Germany would pose threat to the world once again, because it was found liable for the First and the Second World War. So again the people, they were in fear that again for the third time it might be possible that Germany will pose a threat for the people all around the world if it emerges as a military power once again. Therefore, the defeated Germany was divided into 4 administrative segments, right? So it was divided into 4 parts for the management or administration purpose. The Soviet Red Army in the later phase of the war had captured the eastern part of the Germany, right? So one of the political party or the party named Soviet Red Army, right? So they had taken control over the eastern part of Germany. Therefore, it was accepted that eastern Germany would remain in their control, right? Whereas it was decided that America would control southwest side of Germany. Eastern part by Soviet Red Army and southwest side, first eastern part, then south and the west part. Okay, so they would be taken care or controlled by America. France would control its area near France, while Britain would control area of Germany bordering Belgium and Holland. So this way the whole Germany was divided into different parts for administration and control. America, France and Britain started thinking about certain alternative arrangement. Meanwhile, an atmosphere of distrust and doubt had already started between 2 power blocks, that is America, okay, that is 2 power blocks. Later on what is written further is America and other Western European countries established Federal Republic of Germany. Okay, they formed a Federal Republic of Germany. This was administered jointly by America, Britain and France. That means they joined together for the administration or management of Germany. Thus, after the war, the 2 independent German states came into existence. Okay, one was the East Germany and the another one was the whole other part, that was south and the west part and the remaining part. Okay, so on the other side, what happened? The Soviet Union also declared East Germany as Democratic Republic of East Germany. Thus, after the war, the 2 independent German states came into existence, namely West Germany, which was democratic, which was looked after by America, and later on the East Germany, which was under the Soviet Union, that is, which was communist. That means one side West Germany, which was democratic, and East Germany, which was communist. As Germany's 3 western segments were united, 3 administrative segments of Berlin also united. In a reaction to this, Soviet Union in April 1948 declared Berlin blockade. Right? Again we have come across this word blockade for the second time. First time we had seen Cuba, right? So blockade, Berlin blockades, right? So I'll read some information about that. It was one of the first major international crises of the Cold War. The Soviet Union blockade means to block, blocked the Western Allies railway, road and canal access to the sectors of Berlin under West control. That means they made a blockade. That means the people from east side, they were not supposed to go to the western side, and the people from the western side, they could not come to the eastern part of the Germany. This resulted into tremendous tension between the Soviet Union and the western countries. Later on, a high and 42-kilometer wall separating western and eastern Berlin was constructed, right? So again, a huge wall of 42 kilometers with huge height was constructed to divide eastern and western part of the Berlin. Okay. Further, the communist government tried to prevent thousands of East German citizens from jumping and entering into the free atmosphere of Western Germany. That means in the eastern part of the Germany there was communist rule. That means the government, whatever orders and instructions they will give, they have to completely or strictly follow that. That means the people, they were under the control of government. But on the other side, that is this was about the eastern part, and on the other side it was the Western Germany where there was democratic rule. And we all know in the democratic rule, the people, they are at the center and they can do whatever they want to. So many people from the Eastern Germany, they wanted to go to the Western Germany, but they were not allowed by the Soviet Union. Okay. So many people lost their lives in doing so. After about 4.5 decades, so 1 decade means a period of 10 years, Western Germany made an astonishing development. That means Western Germany, where it was democracy, right, they developed like anything, astonishing development. That means there was so good development taking place over there that the whole scenario changed over there. And on the opposite side, experts, so this astonishing development, so experts, what did they say? So experts considered this as a German miracle. There was no remarkable change in the economic condition of the Eastern Germany, right? So Western Germany developed like anything, and the Eastern Germany, economically it did not develop. Okay. The East Germany, German communist government crushed all hopes of its people for political freedom and rapid economic development, because as I said, it was a communist nation or a communist policy was followed. That means the government was the ultimatum. That means the government decided all the rules, regulations and everything, and the people were not given any kind of freedom. Okay. Moving further, till 1990, many important and far-fetching changes took place in international politics. Owing to many reasons, the Cold War among superpower also ended. This years witnessed cracks in otherwise impregnable, right? Impregnable means very strong, okay, not likely to be weakened or changed. So impregnable Soviet Union, right? This years witnessed cracks in otherwise impregnable. That means the Soviet Union, which was very strong, which was believed will never break down, this year so that it got disintegrated, right? That means it was broken down. Ultimately, Soviet Union was disintegrated. As a consequence of it, on October 3rd, 1990, both the Germany united. That is the Eastern Germany and the Western Germany, they both got united. People broke down the Berlin Wall. The wall, 42-kilometer long wall which was constructed, was broken down by the people, which was a symbol of German division. People considered demolition of the Berlin Wall as the end of the Cold War era and celebrated the occasion wholeheartedly. Today, unified Germany has turned out to be the strongest economic power in Europe. After 1990, they have made a tremendous effort to be the strongest economic nation in the last decade. Today, it has become one of the most important and leading nations in the European Union. Right? So, these were all the effects after the Second World War. Right? So, again, we saw how the Germany got divided and later on again it was unified, right? So still we'll see the last paragraph. After that we'll end our today's lecture, and the remaining part of the chapter we'll discuss in the third part. Okay, so last paragraph is disintegration of Soviet Union. Disintegration means getting separated. During the last decade of the 20th century, Soviet Union's Prime Minister Mikhail Gorbachev's liberal policy, that means the Prime Minister was Mikhail Gorbachev, he had a liberal policy, right? That means he was not very strict and powerful, led to the disintegration of Soviet Union, that is Russia. Peaceful disintegration of Soviet Union is considered as epoch making in the international politics, right? Because a country will never leave or give away the nations or the countries which were under its power, but under Soviet Union there was a peaceful disintegration, no fights and nothing. Mikhail Gorbachev became the prime minister from a socialist side on 11th March 1989. He had a liberal attitude. Russia had progressed tremendously in the field of science and technology. They also had acquired capability to compete with superpowers like America. Gorbachev adopted two policies, glasnost and perestroika. In this way, Gorbachev introduced economic and political reforms in the place of single-handed communist rule. Right? So he adopted two policies, glasnost and another one is perestroika. Okay. Earlier it was only a communist rule, right? But later on there were reforms made by Mikhail Gorbachev, and the policy of the government changed. Okay. The stronghold of the Communist Party, the Soviet bureaucracy and the Red Army started weakening, because he belonged to a socialist party where the people, they were considered as important or they were in the center. In 1990, process of the disintegration of the Soviet Union began. Towards the end, out of 15 states, 14 states became independent, and the disintegration of Soviet Union came to an end in December 1991. So this is how even the Soviet Union got disintegrated, right? So as I said, this was our last paragraph for today's session. So I'll end my lecture over here, and I thank you everyone for listening to me carefully. So take care of yourself, stay healthy and stay safe. Bye everyone.